Hi, is Vicki there?
Yes,
Hi, Vicki. It's Johnny from Adirondack Bigfoot. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. I appreciate you taking my call today. I know we've been going back and forth on Facebook Messenger and really excited to connect with you.
Nice.
Yeah. So we were chatting a little bit. You've had some Bigfoot experiences, and I just kind of wanted to get a chance to spend a little time with you and allow you the chance to go ahead and share your experience. And let you have the floor if that's okay.
Okay, sounds good.
All right.
All right. So in 2016, I was living in a very small town in northern Jefferson County in New York.
Uh-huh.
And I started to notice kind of odd little things going on around our residence. I would hear what sounded like, well, what I realize now were more than likely tree knocks. I would hear certain howls and screams. I've actually heard a very discernible whoop
Oh,
on one.
really?
Yes. Um, so how this all started, I was out for a walk one evening with my dog. It was in June time frame.
Yeah.
And so we were walking through a small wooded area that was about a quarter of a mile away from where I lived at the time. And my dog was acting a little bit funny. Like we had walked through this area many times, and this one particular evening, he kind of acted like he didn't really want to go through the woods, which I thought was very strange because he was always very eager to go.
Right.
So we pushed through and we walked through the woods anyway. And I happened to come to one particular spot along the trail where there was a fairly large birch tree that had fallen across the trail.
Wow.
Um,
Okay.
when I got looking at the tree, I thought it was kind of odd that that fell because I didn't find anything rotten about it. Not that I'm, a tree expert or anything, but
Right.
so I stepped over the tree and took probably 3 or 4 steps and was walking back toward my residence. And I started hearing behind me, kind of over my right shoulder, about 100 feet away, something moving through the brush. And I thought, oh, there must be a deer moving through. So I stopped and I turned around and I was watching, and this brush was very dense, very tall, probably 7.5 to 8 feet tall.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw something. I could see the top of what looked like a head, right about even with the top of the brush. So I thought that's really kind of odd. I don't know how a deer would be that big, or be able to see it through the brush like that. So I stood there and I waited, and um, this being emerged from the
Mm.
brush.
Wow.
Uh, It was, I say he, not because I saw anything, but it was just kind of a feeling I had, like it was a really large male.
Mm-hmm.
And so he was facing me, but he had his head down. So I wasn't able to see any facial features. And he turned to his left and started walking away from me. And I could see muscle definition. I could see shoulder definition.
Really?
I I could see shoulder blades. I could see the muscle definition, especially the calf muscles in his legs. I could actually see, as he was walking away from me, I could actually see the bottoms of his feet.
Wow.
So I remember standing there. I was like, there was a level of fear that I had because I couldn't understand. I had never seen anything like that before, and I was trying to wrap my head around it. And, being human, we're conditioned to be fearful of things we don't know or we don't understand. Or
Of
so,
course.
but I never felt threatened, if that makes any sense.
Yep.
Somehow I knew that he wasn't going to harm us. My dog didn't seem to be, fearful. And so I watched him walk away, and I remember thinking, his legs looked like tree trunks. That's how thick and how massive he was. And he kind of disappeared behind a small stand of trees and stopped moving. And that was
Yep.
when I really kind of got nervous, is when I lost sight of him and I could no longer hear him moving.
Yep.
So I turned around and I started walking out of the woods back toward my residence. And I wanted to run, but something in me said, don't run.
Yeah.
So I walked the quarter of a mile back to we were living in a single wide trailer at the time. And I remember getting home and sitting in the living room and kind of staring at the opposite wall in my living room for almost an hour, almost like in a trance, trying to wrap my head around what in the world did I just witness.
Sure. Yeah.
So that was the first sighting. That was the only time I saw that particular individual. There were numerous other times when I saw one that was, I believe they were a family unit. There was three
Hmm.
of them. There was one that was probably right around 7 feet tall, and he was like a reddish brown color. Um, I saw him once during the daylight, and he looked almost like orangutan, kind of reddish brown was the color of his hair.
Wow. Okay.
And if I had to guess, I would kind of put him at the equivalent of like oh, early 20s kind of a mentality. Um, and I would see him actually more often than the other two. The third one that I would see on occasion, I believe, was the youngster of the group, as I'll
Hmm.
say. He was, probably 6 feet, 6.5 feet, and brown in color. And I would catch a glimpse of him occasionally as I was now keep in mind, after these experiences, it took me almost 2 years to work up the courage to walk down that trail through those woods again.
Sure. Yeah. Of course.
So,
My
but
gosh.
there were other areas that I used to walk, um, properties that friends of mine owned that would give me permission to go for walks on their property,
Yeah.
that wasn't too far away from where I lived, and I would catch glimpses of the reddish one in particular. And there was a fourth one that I saw early one morning. He appeared to be all black, and it was around 4:30 in the morning. I was on my way to work,
Hmm.
and it was a road crossing sighting, and he was pretty big as well. I would say he was probably every bit of 8 feet, and it happened very quickly. And it's shocking how quickly they can move when they really want to.
Yeah.
And I remember pulling off on the side of the road that I was on and kind of angling my headlights into the ditch where I feel that he kind of ducked and took some cover, and I couldn't see anything, and I wasn't willing to get out of my vehicle and go investigate by
Yeah. Yeah.
myself.
Yeah.
So, but that was the only time I saw that one. But I started doing kind of my own little investigations. And
Hmm.
now where we lived at the time, there were two state-owned wildlife management areas, um, around us. A lot of privately owned property that is in conservation easements and protected statuses. There's a lot of wetlands, a lot of marshes, kind of swampy areas. And it's it's not very densely populated. Like, there's a lot of wooded areas and a lot of open fields, and these wetlands areas kind of between residences, and a lot of open space where all kinds of animals can move around pretty easily.
Yeah.
Um, but so I would, at times when I was home in my trailer, in
Hmm.
the evenings in particular, I would catch little glimpses of something brown kind of peeking into the window of the kitchen on the backside where
Mm.
there was a very large tree for cover,
Yep.
and it was very close to a hedgerow, a tree line that was right off the end of our residence. So we had a lot when we lived there. I had a lot of experiences there.
Hmm.
It got the summer of 2016. We had a really severe drought, and there was a lot of the deer were constantly on the move looking for water. And that was the year that I reached out to the BFRO and filled out a
Hmm.
couple of reports because activity got so intense around our place that I was actually kind of afraid to be there by myself, especially after dark.
Wow.
So it took a while to get a response. I finally got a response from an investigator from Massachusetts,
Yep.
and he explained to me that he had to reach out to his hierarchy
Mm.
to get permission to contact me because I was out of his research area. But he could see that none of the researchers in New York were contacting me.
Right.
So we made arrangements. He came up at one point. I believe it was November of 2018, I believe, that he came up, and he did kind of a mini investigation over a weekend. And I took him to a lot of areas where I would find really odd tree structures, I guess you would call them.
Hmm.
He showed me how to identify tree pins. We found several areas where we found very obvious X formations.
Hmm.
And we found some other very interesting things. And I started to really take notes and pay attention to patterns. We had an old sheep barn that was on the back of the property that we were renting at the time. And
Yep.
I started to notice a lot of times that we would have turkey vultures kind of hanging out, roosting on the roof of that barn.
Yeah.
And it became very obvious to me after a while that when they were in the area, my dog would act like he didn't want to go outside.
Ah.
And then I started to notice other things, like I would hear tree knocks coming
Uh-huh.
from kind of that barn area where there were also a lot of trees around. And even in the day, there were several occasions I would go to take my basket of laundry
Right.
outside to hang it on the line, and the dog wouldn't follow me outside, and he used to follow me everywhere. And I would get out on the back step and hear this really loud, what sounded like somebody hitting a tree with a bat.
Mm.
And I would spin right back around and go right back in the house and think, well, I guess I'll just put him in the dryer today.
Yeah.
So we lived in that residence for 6 years, I believe.
Yep.
Pretty much the entire 6 years we were there, I experienced a lot. Um, they would tap on the side of our trailer in the middle of the night
Mm.
and wake me up out of a sound sleep. The dog would jump up and start barking and growling. The two cats I had at the time would take off running and go hide in the other bedroom. Um, it was it was a lot. We could hear them tree knocking in the backyard, and one would be kind of on one side of the yard, and then you would hear, I've heard rock clacking before too, and we would hear that occasionally coming from a different part of the yard.
Right.
I've heard whistles. I've heard, all kinds of odd screams and yells. My big thing is be objective and be
Hmm.
critical, because not everything is Bigfoot, as we
Sure.
know.
Yeah.
And we had an awful lot of wildlife around our area. We had fishers, we had bobcats, coyotes, foxes, all those animals can make some pretty interesting sounds. So you always have to kind of keep that in your head too, that, it could potentially be this. And so as I started doing more of my own looking around in different areas, I started to notice patterns in sections where there were man-made tree stands, deer hunting stands.
Right.
There were several locations I found where there would be very close by, kind of along the same game trail, what looked to be kind of a blind, I guess you would call it, that was made with sticks.
Sure. Yeah.
Yep, I found that in 3 different locations, so I thought that was interesting. But we had a lot that went on. The researcher that I was in contact with actually reached out to one of his fellow researchers and was talking to that person about some stuff that was going on, and that individual seemed to think that they were, for whatever reason, habituated to that particular property where we lived at the time. So he gave me the advice of, don't be threatening, don't try to chase them off, don't do anything aggressive, speak to
Sure.
them in a very low tone, be calm. But he said, walk around the boundary of your property and ask them to please leave your residence alone.
Right.
And he said, I know it's going to sound really weird, and it did sound really weird,
Yep.
but I did it anyway. And I am here to tell you the God's honest truth. They stopped slapping and banging on our trailer.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's really interesting. There's so much more that I could tell. It was 6 years of a lot of interactions and, encounters. And it was a very, I guess the best way I can explain it, it was for me a very spiritual experience,
Yeah.
because I started hearing about Bigfoot probably back in the mid 70s. I was 7 or 8 years old, and it was a few years after the whole Patterson Gimlin film and whatnot. And
Sure.
so, as a kid, I just kind of like, okay, yeah, whatever. And then as I got older and started to develop my own ideas and thoughts, and well, maybe there's something to this. We don't
Yeah.
know everything. We don't by far know everything. And
Right.
so I genuinely thought for many, many, many years that if I wanted to see a Bigfoot or have any kind of experience, I would have to go to the Pacific Northwest, because that's where they were.
Right. Yes.
So if anyone had ever told me at any point in my life that I was going to have these experiences and sightings literally right in my own backyard in New York State, I would have called them crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
But so I have, and it's been a life-changing experience. I'm actually very thankful for all of it. I know in one of your podcasts,
Hmm.
I believe you spoke about telepathic communication,
Sure.
and
Yep.
I do believe in that. I had an experience. This was about 8 years ago.
Yep.
I was in Syracuse on a business trip I was down there for 9 days.
Yep.
And around day 5, I believe it was, I was in my hotel room, and I was nice and snug as a bug in my bed and sleeping. And I had what I felt was a dream at the time.
Yep.
It was the 3 individuals that I used to see fairly routinely.
Sure.
And like their mouths weren't moving or anything, but I remember them asking me, "Are you coming home?"
What?
I'm very
Oh my
serious,
gosh.
very serious.
I
And
believe you.
I remember answering them, "Yes, but it's going to be a few more days." And
Yeah.
then it stopped.
Oh my
So,
gosh.
and yeah, I have to tell you this, and
Yeah.
if you think I'm a little nutty or a little crazy, I'm okay with it. Everything I tell you, Johnny, is the truth as it happened to me and as I
Sure.
experienced it.
Yeah.
But I was at home one evening and I was in bed. My husband was home.
Hmm.
We were sleeping. I was having a dream, if you will, that there was a Native American elder and a shaman
Mm.
in my house. And I do have a little bit of Native American blood,
Sure.
not a lot, but so I believe that kind of factors into what I'm about to tell you.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
so they were speaking with each other in their native language that I could not understand.
Hmm.
And at one point in my dream, I got up and I went to my bedroom window, and I remember looking out the window and seeing the three forest people, as I came to call them for the most part, standing across the road. And so in my dream, I went and I got back into bed, and the shaman had turned to me and said to me, and this was the only thing that I understood
Yep.
that he said the whole time: "They're waiting for you to invite them in. They want you to come with them."
Oh my gosh.
And I remember saying to him, "Please tell them to leave me alone. I'm afraid of them."
Yeah.
So he turned back to the native elder, and they again started speaking in, their own language.
Hmm.
I again, in my dream, if that's what you want to call it, got out of bed,
Yep.
went back to the window and looked out, and at that point they were gone. So,
Wow.
yeah, I know it sounds very odd, but um I, it's the truth as I have experienced all of this.
Sure.
And there's been several times we moved over here. My husband and I moved over to Lewis County about 6 years ago. And there's been several occasions since we moved here, nothing recently, probably the last time was about 4 years ago,
Hmm.
when I would have these moments of feeling like they were still trying to reach out to me. Like
Mm.
it's really hard to explain.
Yeah.
And I did talk to the BFRO researcher that I've been in contact with for about 7 or 8 years now. And he said that he hears that a lot from people that he works with and does investigations with.
Yep.
So I've had them tapping on my windowsill in the middle of the night, trying to wake me up.
Yeah.
That was a really weird experience. I got home from work one night. It was around 10:30 p.m. and pretty much went right to bed. And around 11 o'clock, I started hearing kind of a tapping on the outside of the windowsill. And so I started tapping back, and the tapping went from kind of tap, 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 tap. I would hit the windowsill or tap back, and then their tapping would go to tap, 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 like really super fast.
Right.
So that was interesting. And I don't know how long they stayed out there tapping on my window because I was really tired that night and went to sleep pretty quickly. But so the next morning, I had my husband go outside
Yep.
and made him tap on the outside of the windowsill because I wanted to see, does it sound similar? And I sat on the edge of our bed and he did it, and it sounded just like what I had heard the night
Hmm.
before. So I was like, okay. Could it have been something else? Yes, it's possible, being critical, trying to think critically and figure out what this is.
Right.
But it did when he tapped on the outside windowsill. It sounded just like what I heard the night before. So I've seen an orb, which was really interesting. I was in a different wooded area about half a mile from our house and was walking down this trail and again had my dog with me, and my dog was kind of acting a little weird, like he was sticking very close by.
Right.
And I noticed we came around a little curve in the trail, and I noticed that there was something kind of hovering about 6 or 7 feet away that would have been about knee height off the ground. And I thought, what in the world is that? So I stood there and I looked at it, and it was probably not quite as big as like a soccer ball in size. And the outer edge of it seemed to be translucent, not really like you could see through it, but it wasn't solid looking either. Kind of hard to explain.
Yeah.
And the center of it was a reddish brown, and I could see striations that looked like hair. And I thought, okay, this is really odd.
Yeah.
So it kind of slowly floated off the trail and into the woods. My dog followed it for maybe 15 or 20 feet, and then I called him back because I wasn't sure what it was. And it again went around a small stand of trees and kind of disappeared.
Yep.
And I remember looking at my dog at the time and telling my dog, I think I'm losing it. And we're gonna go home. So we turned around and we went home, and it was I told my BFRO buddy that story.
Yep.
And he has experienced similar things. So he said, you have no idea how many people I talk to who also witness orbs at some point.
Yeah.
So, like, I could probably sit here all night, Johnny, and just tell you all kinds of things that I experienced in the 6 years we lived in that place. And it was, since we've moved over to Lewis County, we're pretty avid hikers, and, we're always out fishing and kayaking and bike riding. And, there's several areas that we've been in where I have seen, again, tree pins, and I always go and I look at them because I'm like, okay, this could potentially be storm damage. It could be deadfall. It could be something else.
Right.
And I've literally seen saplings, like birch saplings that have been leaned over, and the tops of them somehow driven basically straight into the ground.
Yeah.
So
you've seen that in New York, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Everything that I've experienced has been right here in good old New York State.
Great.
So when we were speaking, I occasionally we see X's occasionally here and there. A few years ago, I was out hiking by myself, and I had gone off trail a little bit. I was trying to bushwhack my way down to a waterfall. It wasn't a very far distance. It was only maybe 50 or 75 yards that I was trying to kind of make my way through the brush to get to this waterfall. And it's very near a power line corridor. It's right next to one of the many power dams in this area.
Mm-hmm.
And so I get through a bunch of the brush, come out to a little bit of a clearing. It wasn't a huge clearing. And right in the middle of this clearing was a very obvious X.
Yep.
And I again had my dog with me because he used to go everywhere with me. And I looked at him and I said, "We're not supposed to be here and we're getting out of here." So we turned around and we left.
Yeah.
But it's it's interesting. There was at one point when we were still living in Jefferson County, I occasionally would go kind of snoop around behind the old sheep barn that was behind the property that we owned, and because there was an interesting stick structure back there, and I took my researcher friend back there when he came up and I showed it to him,
Yep.
and he immediately picked up on a few things, and I hadn't been back there for about 3 weeks when
Hmm.
he came up. So when I took him back there to show him, I noticed immediately right in the middle of everything there was an X formation.
Yeah.
And I stopped in my tracks and I looked at him and I said, "That wasn't there 3 weeks ago, the last time I was back here." And he said, "Well, they're apparently still active on your property." So,
Yeah. Right. All right. Um, well, Vicky, I know that we probably have to have a second call here, or maybe meet up one day or something to chat more about all this.
right.
But I mean, this is pretty amazing. So this is probably the most impactful conversation I've had about Bigfoot with someone. So I
Yeah.
appreciate you sharing with me.
Right.
I might even label you the new expert, just so you know.
No, I'm
So
not an
so
expert at anything, Johnny.
you are the new Bigfoot expert. So I didn't want to disturb you as you were chatting away because you were sharing so much. So I didn't want to
Right.
pull you off course and forget to share something. But wow, that is so much and so interesting.
Right.
Um, so before I ask you a few questions,
Okay.
how does this make you feel? How does it make you feel like overall? So you've been through all this and had these experiences. How do you feel about it?
Um, I feel for me, it's been a very spiritual journey
Yeah,
because I feel like I really truly believe that they chose to interact with me,
yeah,
possibly because they realized that I was not going to be any harm to them. And I did talk to my researcher friend, and
yeah,
he agreed with that. He said, because my initial sighting of the really large one,
yeah.
um, I remember thinking, why would he come out when I was right there? All he had to do was wait a few more minutes, and I would have been gone and out of the woods, and I never would have known that there was anything different back there.
Right.
And the researcher said, because he wanted you to know that he was there for some reason.
Yeah.
So it's definitely raised my level of thinking about what we think we know about the world that we live in.
Right. Yeah.
And it's been amazing. I mean, there were a few times when I was a little bit nervous about certain things that were going on, but they certainly never acted aggressive in any manner toward me. Or I mean, they easily could have. There was a couple of times my dog would take off chasing something across the yard,
Yeah.
now early in the morning when it was still dark, when I had to let him out, and they easily could have, made my dog disappear. They never harmed anything. I never felt like that was ever going to happen to me or any of my pets or my husband. Or but it's been a very it's been life changing. It's very spiritual.
Mm.
One of the first questions that the researcher asked me when he
Hmm.
did the initial telephone interview was, "Do you practice yoga?"
What?
And yes, I laughed when he said that because at the time I was practicing yoga.
Really?
and he said there has been some evidence, if you will,
Hmm.
of a connection between people that meditate, practice yoga, whatever,
Yeah.
and having kind of a connection with Bigfoot or
Yeah.
forest people, or whatever you want to refer to them as.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, it's been very impactful for me. That's why I was really hesitant for a long time to share any of my experiences, because I thought, oh boy, people are going to think I'm crazy.
Yeah.
And now the more I started kind of talking to the neighbors that
Hmm.
we had one neighbor who lived across the road. She owned a greenhouse. It was her, used to be her family dairy. She had lived there her entire life. Um, and she acknowledged the fact that she has experiences and has had sightings, and there is something very unusual that occurs in that area. And I've I've had other neighbors that just openly said, "Oh yeah, Bigfoot, they're around here." And it's like,
Really?
okay.
Wow. Wow.
But it's kind of, there's a lot of people in that town that don't want a lot known about it. They kind of keep it under the rug and keep it hush hush, and we don't talk about it and we don't acknowledge it. And I don't know if it's fear based or just they don't want a lot of people there,
Yeah.
snooping around and investigating. And I guess, like, from what I understand, Whitehall really embraces
Yeah.
their Bigfoot culture, and the town that I was born and raised in and had all this experience in, is not of that mindset.
Uh-huh. Yeah. And most of them are not, so you know.
Right,
Um,
right.
so yeah, so Whitehall has embraced it. I mean, and there's researchers out in Whitehall every day.
Right.
And if you peruse through YouTube, you'll see that there's a handful of different researchers from paranormal to Bigfoot to Dogman that
Hmm.
that seem to gravitate to Whitehall because of the amount of activity that's been in that area. So they
Right.
totally embrace it. That has now made the town.
Hmm.
It's actually considered by the state of New York a Bigfoot sanctuary, which is funny, right? Um, so so you can't hurt them, but you can
Right,
go
right,
look for them if you want.
right,
Um,
right.
but then some other towns that I know of where I've talked to folks or had a lot of activity and been to, it's very small town, very secretive,
Yes.
no Bigfoot, nothing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
they're not putting them big cardboard cutouts in the yard, no flags, no
Right,
Bigfoot, nothing at the corner store, you know. So I'm
right.
like, wow, with the amount of activity in this area and folks that come here, they really don't want anybody,
Yeah.
and that makes you wonder, like, are they protecting them? Because
Right,
they are considered
right.
friendly, or that town or those people in that area or individuals like yourself have been chosen to be able to see or interact with them, which is interesting.
Right, right. Yeah, I truly believe that that's probably the mindset of my hometown, is that they don't want a lot of people there because they're afraid
Yeah.
that it will, be detrimental to them in some manner. And
Yep.
I kind of feel the same way. I
Yeah.
love to talk about my experiences with people like you and people who are, of the similar mindset, because it's neat to connect with people that have had, experiences and sightings and encounters. And
Yeah.
it's like, wow, this is, it's real. This is
Yeah.
real.
Yeah,
So,
it's helping you confirm what you've
right,
experienced,
right.
which is super awesome. So my second question to follow up to, how does it make you feel? Um, how do you feel it's impacted your life having these interactions?
Um, in a very positive manner, for the
Great.
most part. Another odd question that my researcher friend asked me when we had our initial interview was, are you or your husband sick in some way? And he said, I don't, if anything's going on medically, he goes, I don't need to know. He goes, it's just a yes or no question.
Hmm.
And I said, and initially I said no. And he said, well, let me explain. He said, there's also some thought about the fact that there may be a connection with people who are ill
Mm.
and them, kind of reaching out and connecting. And well, then I started thinking about it, over the course of the next couple of months. And it's like,
Hmm.
I have anxiety,
Hmm.
and I've had a couple of bouts of depression.
Sure.
I haven't had one in a really long time. But I'll tell you, having those experiences and sightings, it really, it actually helped to bring me out of a depressive episode that I had been having at the time.
Wow.
I would actually look forward to. It's like, oh, I wonder if they're going to be in the backyard tonight, tree knocking like they have so many other times, or am I going to hear them calling back and forth, or am I going to see one of them in the next couple of days? Like, it really, it gave me something to look forward to, I guess.
Yeah.
So, but
I love.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's been a tremendous experience. It really has.
I love that. That's really great to hear, that it's had such a positive, profound um, impact on your life. That's really awesome, Vicky.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't quite heard that yet either. So that that actually makes me feel good, right? Because a lot of people are really nervous or
Mm-hmm.
scared, when they have some sort of sighting or encounter. Um,
Right,
and then everybody talks about, well, what would you do if you saw one, and everybody does. It's always like kind of a
right.
um negative thing. So that puts a positive spin on it. I love it. I love it so much. That's good. That's real good. So some Bigfoot questions. Let me ask you.
Okay.
Did you make contact at all? Do you like make eye contact? Was there any type of hand signals? Was there any type of gesture?
Um, I would I would have to say no to all of that.
Sure.
When the initial sighting that I had with what I believe to be the adult male, the dominant male, when he came out of the brush, even though he was facing me initially, he had his head down,
Yep.
so he didn't look at me. So I never got any facial details. And then he turned to his left and started slowly walking away from me. Um, the only one that I've had any kind of like very brief, quick kind of a look at their face would be the youngest one, the shortest one that was around 6.5 feet.
Hmm.
And that was just once. The 7 foot reddish brown one. There was one time that I came around a corner of a trail on a friend of mine's property that I had permission to be on at the time,
Yep.
and he zipped across the trail really fast. Not on all fours, but he wasn't standing upright either. He was almost like crouched very low,
Hmm.
and he moved very quickly, turned his head to me very quick, looked back, and was gone in the brush, probably in less than 2 seconds. I mean, it was all very lightning fast.
Wow.
So yeah, he did very quickly look at me, but it was so fast I couldn't get any facial details or anything. But I never noticed any like gestures or anything like that with their hands.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Um, Well, I'm just wondering because you had such a awesome experience, multiple
Mm-hmm.
experiences that maybe you had some interaction, a little bit more interaction than most people. So
Right,
it'd be good. I'm
right.
sure you've heard of mind speak. Did you feel anything like that? Like maybe they were telling you something or sharing something with you without speaking?
I kind of wonder, like those two dreams, as I call them, that I spoke about.
Yeah.
I don't know. Would that be classified as like, yeah,
Um,
is
I,
that like more like a dream or telepathy or
yeah. Well, I would say that is definitely something.
is
Um,
something that's yet to be
yeah,
explained?
yeah. And the more the deep. So just here's something I was thinking about. Um, the deeper and deeper I get into this, the more I talk to folks, the more I think about almost that exactly. When I go, well, what would a Bigfoot experience really kind of be like? And I think it would be more in that realm, right? Like in a little bit of
Mhm.
a, you're not quite just standing in the moment, but you may be in a dreamlike state, and that might be the reality they live in, right?
Right, right.
Yeah, so I'm intrigued with that. And yeah, tempted me to get out in the woods and maybe eat a mushroom or two, you know?
Don't eat the wrong ones.
Right. Right. You eat the wrong one, I might not come out of the woods, so I don't know.
Yes, absolutely. We don't want that.
So no communication is what you're saying,
Um,
other than
I
the experience with the dream and
right.
the Native
I mean,
Americans.
they would slap on the side of our trailer. There was actually one particular evening we would always close the curtains as it started to get dark.
Yeah.
And there was one particular evening where we had done that, and maybe 10 or 15 minutes later, there was a loud slap on the side of the trailer where
Mm,
our living room was.
yeah.
So I talked to my researcher friend about that it seemed like that's when we would, experience kind of the slapping and banging. And he told me about a family that he had been working with in New Hampshire
Sure.
who used to experience the same thing.
Mm.
And he said, as long as they left their curtains open, they wouldn't bang on their house.
Oh, wow.
So I'm like, is that their way of saying, hey, we're kind of watching TV by watching you guys?
Yeah, yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, you're our entertainment. We
Right,
enjoy, leave
right.
the window open. Uh, that's great. And that was my next. Do you feel like there's um some meaning to their knocks? So
Yes, I
so
do.
in that instance, they're telling you, hey, maybe leave the window open, right?
Right, right.
That's funny.
Yeah,
Um,
and I definitely feel that when they're tree knocking and rock clacking and whistling, and that's obviously, to me, in my mind, it's obvious that they're communicating, especially with each other.
yeah,
Um, and I had actually, when I spoke to the researcher and
yeah,
talked to him about, I kind of want to go out in the backyard one of these evenings after dark and start tree knocking, and he said, don't do it.
yeah,
And I asked him why, and he said, because you don't understand what basically their language is when they're doing that, and you don't know, what their response, their reaction is going to be. He said, I
yeah,
do not advise you to go tree knocking at all. So I
right.
never
Yeah.
did. I heeded his advice and I did not do that. So
Yeah. Yeah, that's something I've not been thinking about, but I've talked about with a couple different folks too, is if you don't know what the knocks mean, right?
right,
So if
right,
you're out there two knocks, what does two knocks mean to a Bigfoot, right? If it does mean something, it
right,
could mean dinner time, right? I mean, who knows what that means? Um,
right.
so it's probably I did do it one time. I didn't have anything happen, but I never did it again after I heard that. So
Yeah,
I said, yes, probably not a good idea to call them in a way that I don't know what I'm calling in.
absolutely.
Good. When you saw them, was there any smells?
Yes, typically it was well, because where we lived is a lot of wetlands and a lot of swamp and wet ground, and that was typically the smell when they were nearby. I would pick up on that. There
Yeah.
was actually, that brings me to another point. There was actually one morning that I was getting ready for work, and I was in the bathroom, and I smelled this horrible, smelled like wet dog, dead animal, swamp, And so I thought, that's really weird. It was a very calm, very still morning. So there wasn't any kind of a breeze at that point.
Yeah.
I got in the shower, got out a few minutes later, got dressed, and the smell was gone.
Mm.
So I'm like, okay, it could have been something, wafting in through the window.
Yeah.
Or,
Yeah.
was somebody out here? And that's what I was picking up on and smelling. And kind of going back to the mind speak thing, I don't know if I've ever experienced that, but somehow I always knew when they were nearby. It
Mm.
was a feeling that I had.
Yeah.
Um, when the researcher was up for that weekend, we went to a particular area that was owned by a friend of mine, and I had reached out to her, hey, do you mind if we go here?
Yeah.
It was a swampy area, and we were walking along the edge of the swamp, and I kept feeling like something was pulling me
Mm.
in the opposite direction. It's really difficult to explain
Yeah.
if you haven't experienced it. But we would walk along for a little while, and then I would stop and kind of turn around and stand there and look. It was almost like somebody was gesturing to me, like, hey, we're over here.
Mm.
um the researcher was not picking up on it. He, after about the third time I did it, he asked me, he said, Vicki, what are you doing? What's going on? And I explained it to him. I said, I feel like I'm being pulled this way for some reason.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that would be considered mind speak or just like intuition, or, but
Ah,
I I
did
got
you
to a
feel
point
like
where I
something
could
was
tell what they
telling
were.
you to go that way?
I felt very drawn that way, like
Yeah.
almost like, hey, we're over here, you
Right.
know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would think so. That sounds like mind speak to me. I mean, if you're somehow given direction without
Yeah,
words, then yes,
right.
I would say yeah. Wow, interesting. Um, good. So, so what about the X? So do you think that the meaning of the X is what everybody thinks it is, as in it's a marking of the end, that they're in that area, that's the a marking of their travel space or living area or entrance to the forest, I've heard.
Um, my interpretation is I feel like it's maybe them marking kind of a gathering point or a meeting point, but I
Ah,
also
I like that.
feel like it has dual meaning. I feel like for them it's a gathering point and that's what it means. I feel like for the rest of us it's probably saying stay out of here.
Yeah.
So I feel like there's more than one meaning for,
Hmm.
the X formations.
But it means Bigfoot, you think?
I 100% in my heart and my soul, I believe that, yes.
Yeah, yeah, good, 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 good. I'm trying to confirm some things for myself too. So when I'm out there, if I hear knocks or an exit, what does it mean? So tree bends and breaks. Do you think that that's kind of marking their territory, or what's your take on
Yeah.
that?
So I have two different stories that occurred that I can tell you real quick. There was
Sure.
one morning around 3 a.m. that the dog woke me up and had to go out. So I let
Hmm.
him out,
Yep.
and he immediately took off across the backyard chasing something. And I heard something in the tree line near the old sheep barn snap. I could tell it was a branch break. And
Yep.
so he came kind of strolling back, almost like he had been scolded.
Mm,
He came back, very low body posture, tail kind of between his legs, kind of turning around, looking behind him. And I
interesting.
thought, okay, he took off after something he shouldn't have. And so the next morning when it got daylight, I went out and I looked, and about 7 feet off the ground, there was a tree branch that probably would have been about 4 to 5 inches in diameter, that was snapped straight down off the tree.
Mm,
And I'm like, I wonder if this is what I heard last night when the dog took off running. If that
right.
was a way for them to say, hey, get out of here, or, whatever.
Yeah.
But I also
Back
had
off.
another,
Right.
right, yes, yes. I also had another experience. I was sitting out on my front deck one night. It was after dark. It was actually in January.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful. It was mild. It was a clear night, but there was no moon, so it was kind of hard to see. Um, and in the tree line next to the driveway, I kind of heard this, like I would hear a growling sound every now and again. I thought, am I hearing growling or is there something else going on? And then I heard a very loud branch break, and the dog got very nervous and went right to the front door. So I thought, well,
Hmm.
we're going inside apparently.
Yeah.
Again, when I got home from work later that afternoon when it was daylight, I went and I looked, and about 8 feet off the ground, there was a very fresh branch, again, about probably 4 or 5 inches in diameter, that was snapped straight down.
Wow.
So I'm thinking, were they trying to say, hey, we want to move through here and you're interrupting us? Or
Yeah, yeah. Oh, I like that take on it. So, some
yeah,
think it's like marking their pathway, but
right,
maybe it's some sort of a not a warning, but just a hey, this is where where we're hanging out, or this is where we're traveling.
right, right.
Wow, I like it. Very good. So what about the orbs? Is there a connection there between to Bigfoot, or do you think that that's a separate entity?
I believe that there's a connection.
Yeah.
Um, there, my hometown. There's also been a lot of UFO sightings in
Uh-huh.
my hometown. So
Yeah.
I really kind of wonder, is there a connection between that as well?
Yeah.
Um, my dad passed away 31 years ago, and
Mhm.
way back when I was little, he went out early one morning to go to work, and he came right back in the house, and I could hear him and mom. He was pretty excited. My dad wasn't the kind of person to get like overly excited or panic about anything. He was pretty level headed, and
Hmm.
he came back in the house pretty quickly, and was I could hear him and mom talking, but I couldn't understand what they were saying. And he finally went back out and left and went to work, and we were never allowed to talk about it. I asked mom later that day what had happened, and she said, oh, nothing, don't worry about it. And I asked my dad about it, and he blew it off and said, you don't need to worry about it.
Yeah.
Found out years later, after my dad had passed away, my mom and I got reminiscing and talking about that incident. And I said, what happened that morning anyway? And she goes, oh, your dad went out to go to work that morning and swore to God he saw a UFO.
Wow.
And I,
Wow.
hey.
Yeah. I
So,
wondered,
but
how about your mom? Has anybody else in your family had any
my mom,
experiences?
she, as far as I know, she didn't have any like Bigfoot experiences or
Mm,
UFO experiences.
yeah.
My mom passed away 4 years ago,
Yeah.
but um, she had a lot of paranormal experiences,
Oh.
I guess you could say.
Mm,
Um, we lived in the house that we grew up in was a Civil War era house.
yep.
It was pretty old, and she used to tell me she didn't talk to too many people about it because she was afraid of being ridiculed. And my dad didn't believe in that stuff, so he wouldn't listen to anything she said. And so she used to talk to me about it once in a while, and she would occasionally see a young mother and a young daughter kind of in Civil War era dress
Wow.
in our house and kind of
Mm,
around our property.
yeah.
Um, she had a lot of other experiences as well that she used to tell me about. The night my grandmother passed away many years ago, she told me that, oh yeah, your grandmother came and saw me in my dream and said her goodbyes and whatever. So
Oh, great. Did you tell her
yeah.
I said hi? Wow.
Um, so
Wow.
my mom's side of the family, the women in particular,
Mm,
seem to have a gift, if you will.
yep.
Um, my grandmother, my mom's mom, and my mom's grandmother, um, all had a lot of paranormal experiences. I have cousins on my mom's side who have told me things that have happened, and I have personally had paranormal experiences. I've seen full-bodied apparitions. I've had
Wow.
other really weird things happen to me. So I believe that there's something generational on my mom's side of the family through the women where
Mm.
we experience this stuff.
Well, your dad's seen a UFO.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think it's both sides. Um,
Yeah,
wow, that's deep because it sounds like your family has a leg in another dimension or something. I mean, wow,
I,
you're susceptible to having these type of experiences.
yeah,
Um, and it really makes you wonder, like, where does that connection come from?
right,
Especially when you think about Bigfoot. You've heard of
right,
paranormal before, but Bigfoot's a little different.
right.
So that's super interesting. Wow. So throughout these experiences that you've had, has there been any other folks that were with you that witnessed it with you? Witnessed
No,
any?
there haven't. Other than um, the researcher was the only one that, I mean, we never saw and had any sightings or anything while he was up here.
Yeah.
We didn't even hear any tree knocks or anything, but we found a lot of, I took him to different areas and we found a lot of what he felt was good examples of stick structures.
Oh yeah.
He took a tremendous amount of photos
Mm-hmm.
and he was pretty impressed with a lot of the things that I showed him. But
Good.
other than my
Did he?
dog that used to be with me all the time, I was always by myself.
Mm, right. Okay.
So that's kind of where, I wonder, did they show themselves to me because they felt safe or they felt a
Yeah.
connection or you know what
Right.
I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I think so. I think so. I think there's definitely folks out there that are chosen that are susceptible to seeing
Hmm.
Bigfoot or having some sort of experiences, whether it be paranormal or something else.
Right.
And it always seems to be that I feel and they feel that they're somehow, some way they're considered friendly or chosen.
Right.
There's some sort of connection there, something that uh, makes the Bigfoot feel um, that it's okay.
Hmm.
I talked to a couple different people, and I've heard some stories, not stories, but some folks that have direct connections to some natives that if you're if you're considered a friendly, like you're not a threat,
Hmm.
um, like you have a good heart, they know that. And if you
Right.
have a good heart and they know that they feel safe around you, you're more likely to see them, you know. So
Right.
so that's a great and that kind of ties into that dream state that you had.
Yeah. Yes.
So that's very, 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 very interesting. Um, I think that's all I had. Is there anything else that you wanted to share, Vicky?
Um, I could probably sit here for another hour.
Well, I mean, we could do another call. I'm totally good with
Right.
that.
Right.
But I mean, is there anything that stands out that makes the connection between you and Bigfoot, or that you feel there's a reason why they look at you as a friendly,
Uh,
or
I I've always felt my my dad always used to call me his feral child.
oh boy,
And the first the first time he said that to me, I was probably 6 or 7 years old, and
yeah,
I didn't understand what the term feral meant.
yeah,
So he explained it to me, and he said it just means you're kind of a wild child. And I asked him, I said,
ah,
"Does that mean I'm bad?" And he said, "No, it's just I always wanted to be where the animals were. I'm a huge animal lover. I love the outdoors. I feel very connected to nature. I feel very connected to the outdoors.
yeah,
I'm barefoot all the time.
oh,
If my feet were really strong like they used to be when I was a teenager, I would probably still have Bigfoot type feet, to be honest with you.
yeah,
But so I've always felt very deeply connected to our natural world. Um,
great,
One of my absolute favorite movies is Avatar
mm-hmm,
because I love the fact that everything is connected and everything is
yes,
thing, and that's exactly how I feel.
yeah, I love that movie too.
But
Uh,
always, I think I always kind of had my parents in a panic because a lot of times they never knew where I was, but I was always in the woods with
Hmm.
whatever dog we had at the time when I
Uh-huh.
wasn't in school. And I was always just exploring and playing in the woods. And I've always just wanted to be where the animals are, whether it's the wild animals or my own pets or my horses or,
Right,
whatever.
right. That's great. I love that. Expedition Bigfoot, you know that show, right?
Yes, yes.
RPG was on there for a while. He's not there anymore, Ryan. Um, I talked to him at the Florida conference last I think it was February that they had that conference. I went to it. And he was there, and I got to spend a little bit of time with him. He was so funny. He told me, and he told me, he said, "You got to get out in the woods, take your shoes off, and connect to the
Yep,
earth." And I
yes,
was like, "Wow, yeah, okay, good. Next time I go camping, that's it, dirty
yep,
feet, you know."
yeah.
And then he said, if you're really brave, take it a step further and just go naked. I was like, he's like, if you spend the night naked in the woods, you're gonna come out a different man the next day, and you're gonna have a real connection to this planet. And I was like, I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm gonna try the feet first and kind
Start
of
out
see how that goes.
small. Yeah, yeah,
But I'm totally in agreement, and I've been looking at some scientific stuff and different studies and listening to different scientific speakers about the fact that there is actually a connection to the planet and I don't even want to try to millisane or I don't there is the four is so there's a lot of truth to the movie is what I'm trying to
right,
say.
right.
Um, and we've lost contact with that over
Oh,
the years as humans, because we cover our feet, we cover our body,
right,
we don't touch the earth basically,
right.
um, which is I think it's a problem because there's vibration, there's so many different connections that you can have with this
Yep,
planet.
yep.
But yeah, cool. Well, I'm so excited. You got my mind spinning. I am
Well,
so
hopefully,
happy that we got to talk and that you reached out to me, and I'm super excited about this. So
right.
let me put some things together. I
Okay,
appreciate you sharing with me.
I
I'll
appreciate
be
that.
back with you. You have all my contact information, so
Yes.
if you ever want to just chat or whatever, feel free. Just reach out, give me a
Oh,
call, shoot me a text, and what maybe we can do next time. We can sit down face to face and chat a bit. Okay?
I would love that.
Yeah, that'd be cool. All right. Well, I'll be in touch. We're
Okay,
Bigfoot friends now, so keep in touch. All
awesome.
right.
All right, sounds good.
All right. Thank you.
All right, have a good night.
You too.
Bye bye.
Bye.